How you doing, guys? SmartEntity here. I know it's been a while, but I'm back with some solid Warframe content, and today we're going to do Vault Prime Specialized Build Episode 18. Now, Vault is a beginner frame, so when I first started the game, it was Excalibur, Loki, and Mag, but I was told Vault was a starter frame once upon a time, and of course Vault again now is a starter frame, which is a decision that I really agree with. Because Vault is a really fun frame to use, it's extremely user friendly, it has a lot of utilities early on in the game, but it's just not a in-game frame. You know, it's not the frame that you want to take to your 50 plus wave defense or your 60-minute plus survival. And because of that, we can actually get away with this build without any format. So all you need is a reactor, and we're gonna use a steel charge aura, which give us altogether, because it matches the V polarity, 18 additional mod points. Now if this was, say, something like Trinity or Necros and it had a V polarity for aura, I probably will have to put in a couple formats just so I can put in the corrosive projection aura, and because I don't really like to format already present polarities. So that aside, because we're going to use Vault pretty much just for everyday gameplay, nothing too extreme, we're going to use Steel Charge in addition to Redirection and Vitality. We will use Streamline and Fleeting Expertise, both one from the top. Now these two are pretty much essential mods I use on every frame, except for frames that can generate its own energy, namely Energy Vampire with Trinity, and Limbo with Rift Walk. Now in addition, we're going to use Primed Flow. Now this is a pretty interesting mod because with Prime Flow we actually have a total of 600 energy bank. Now because it's a prime, if you're doing Void, which is pretty much the type of gameplay I do 99% of the time, I'm gonna benefit from those cube, sphere thingamajiggies that pretty much give energy, and having Prime Flow in there really allow me to bank a lot of energy, which if I'm doing something like capture, sabotage, that kind of stuff, it really allow me to spam my power number 2, which is speed, and allow me to get through the map much faster. In addition, we will use Prime Continuity. Prime Continuity pretty much nullifies the disadvantage of Fleeting Expertise and give an additional 5% power duration, which really doesn't do much, but the 55% altogether does make a lot of difference. Now we're going to use Intensify, which pretty much benefit all of Vault's powers except for number 3, which is already pretty damn good on its own. In addition, we'll use Stretch, which helps a bit with power number 4 for low level gameplay, which is pretty much when you want to use this frame 99% of the time. In addition, it does help with power number 1 a little bit for, I guess, that little bit of Sith Lord, Lightning Bolt, whatever you want to call it. Now I should mention, unlike most of the other builds I release, if you do not have Prime Continuity and Prime Flow, this build will not work with normal flow and normal continuity. The reason is with normal continuity you got 25% power duration, which really is too low to make Fleeting Expertise's negative duration go away, which makes its power number 2 speed a lot more useless than it should be. And with Vault, how you're running from A to B to C type missions, so you capture, sabotage, which is pretty much when you want to use Vault, using a normal continuity just isn't good enough. And if you got normal flow with only 125% energy bank increase, it just doesn't justify the mod slot. So if you don't have these two mods, what you actually probably want to do is use either something like Continuity and Constitution, or if you got something like Max Narrow-Minded, what you might want to do is just ditch Stretch, put in a Max Narrow-Minded, put in your Continuity and your Constitution, and just forget about power number 4 and just basically spam power number 2 and, you know, go through your maps. But if you do have, you know, Prime Continuity or Prime Flow, even one from the top, this will work. If it's less than one from the top, well, it won't work as well. So a quick demonstration of Vault's power. So Vault's first power, Shock, makes you feel like a Sith Lord. Does decent damage, and whatever it doesn't kill, it stuns. Pretty nice on capture targets. Vault's second power, Speed. Now this is a power that sets Vault apart. Yeah, there you go. Vault's third power is the Electric Shield. It adds a bit of an electricity bonus, 50% electricity damage, in addition to a ×2 crit damage multiplier. Pretty decent. It really does a nice job against these kind of meat shield type enemies, but it won't work as well against, I guess, your, you know, enemies that have phases or stages. But for your high level gameplay, it does some decent damage. Unfortunately, the power itself isn't enough to bring Vault to that end game level. So here I'm just basically showing you guys that I did kill Vor there almost immediately, because yeah, it basically disappeared. So Volt's Force Power Overload, pretty decent AoE. It's basically a large radio effect of shock, so it does decent damage, and whatever it doesn't kill, it stuns. Alright, so let's sum up Volt's powers again. So shock, Volt's first power, it does decent damage against low level enemies. Whatever it doesn't kill, it adds that stun proc, which is pretty nice against captured targets or synthesis targets. But other than that, it really doesn't really have any application for high level gameplay. Volt's power number 2, speed. Now I do want to mention speed does benefit from strength mods such as Intensify. However, I definitely do not recommend using Blind Rage and Transient Fortitude. The negatives aside, i.e. the power inefficiency and the decreased duration aside, which is pretty big, right? It makes this power useless, but that aside, the increase in speed doesn't really help, because most of the time, you'll be using your melee for traveling utility anyway. So Intensify plus speed plus melee traveling is more than what you need. If you add Transient Fortitude and or Blind Rage, you pretty much just end up smashing into a wall 90% of the time, and that actually decreases your overall efficiency, i.e. makes you actually spend more time trying to get to where you are. Now Volt's third power is pretty decent, so Electro Shield absorbs a bit of damage, it adds that 50% extra electricity damage like an extra mod, but what really sets this power apart is that ×2 critical damage multiplier, so it really helps those crit weapons such as your Soma Prime, your Synapse, doing those red crits, doing those really high damage values. Now Volt's number 4. Now this power, I'm actually a bit conflicted. It's, in my opinion, nowhere near as good as something like Avalanche, and the reason for that is because if we're talking about, say, level 25-ish enemies, where a single overload can't really kill them. Instead, it does a lot of damage, and it stuns them. But because it stuns them, and it has that sort of traveling time where the electric current moves away from you and stuns them, that is actually cooldown, and you can't recast Overload immediately. You can't recast to kill them immediately. Whereas something like Avalanche, you can almost recast immediately and kill whatever enemies left. Now, it does have that stunning proc, which I guess some people could claim as crowd control. But the problem with that is, the time where crowd control is actually useful, which is about your, 40 wave plus defense and your 50 to 60 minute plus survival. Overload does so little damage, and the stunning proc is such a bad crowd control where so many other powers are so much better than it. It doesn't really have a place anyway, so that's why I don't really like Overload that much. I mean, if you're facing, level 10 enemies, no problem, you're gonna kill them one shot, so it's no biggie. It's a problem is when you do, 50 to 75-ish% of the enemy's total health, and you can't recast, that's a problem. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Now I still have a lot of other stuff on my plate, so I probably won't be able to release as much videos as I once upon a time did, but I will try to release, some Warframe content, some weapon content, and just some general advanced guides, as a lot of you guys have actually messaged me demanding it, and hey, I'm here to make you guys happy. So guys, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.